So in total, not including product, my entire table display cost. So a big question I do get a lot is, where did I get everything for my Artist Alley display and how much did everything cost? Admittedly, I also got the idea for this video from Anna of Sundrop Studios, which I will have her tour display linked down below if you want to see it for yourself, especially if you are primarily a print artist. However, in my case, I am primarily an Ita bag and enamel pin artist, so this is how I personally like to display my product. And if you have similar items or want ideas on how you can optimize your display, this video is for you. Just a quick disclaimer for everyone. You do not need to pay this much for an Artist Alley display. If anything, if you are just starting, I do highly recommend going with secondhand items or borrowing some things, because you don't even know if you do want to pursue Artist Alley full time or even just as a hobby, and you don't want to invest this much money upfront if you're actually not going to continue with it. Now, before I reveal how much my entire Artist Alley display costs, comment down below how much you think it is. Maybe you'll be surprised, maybe if not, very curious. Starting off with the table, for a lot of Artist Alleys in the US, you will come across a 6-foot table. Sometimes you may come across an 8-foot table or a 10 by 10 space. However, this is the most common size. I don't know what that is in meters. I think it's 1 meter. Please let me know, non-US people. Please keep this table size in mind for your table display as well as your tablecloth. Starting with my tablecloth, I usually put it in this drawstring bag, just some old drawstring. As you can tell, it's falling apart. Doesn't really matter, it still does the job. And this is usually where I put my tablecloth, my banner, and my table runner, which I will discuss in a little bit. So in this case, this table runner is from Totally Promotional and it was $75. The reason why it's a little bit more pricey is because this is liquid repellent, which I really like because at the time I did start off with some night markets and a lot of people tend to put their drinks on your table. And I don't want those drinks soaking my tablecloth. So in the case of it being a little bit liquid repellent, if some liquid does get on my tablecloth, I can wipe it away and it won't damage my table or my products. And in the 4 or so years that I've had this, there's only a couple stains, which is really just from regular use. But typically I do throw it in the wash and then in the dryer, and then I steam it, which you don't have to, but I like to minimize the look of wrinkles, even though it's still wrinkled, but who cares? In this case, this is the standard size tablecloth. I do have 4 tablecloths total. You don't need that many, but I did end up using this one just because I can apply it for a 6-foot table as well as an 8-foot table, and I don't have to worry about whether it'll fit it or not. I do have 3 of these so that if I do have a proxy for another event, they can use that tablecloth, whether it's for a 10 by 10 or whatnot. And then the 4th one is the tablecloth that has an opening in the back, so then it's unobstructed, but that one is only for a 6-foot table. For branding purposes, I do have a table runner, which this one is 30 by 72 inches. The place that I got this from, they are a fellow Artist Alley vendor who also does custom prints, and this is one of the items that I got from them. It is a great way to brand your table, at least from the bottom, so that people can hopefully recognize you for future events or just remember your branding in general. I will say one of the issues with this is that I need to remember to center it, because I've noticed in some other table photos, the table runner is not centered. So for the foundation of my entire table display are my grid cubes. So I do like to use a mix of wire and plastic grid cubes. And the reason for that is because the wire ones are perfect for utility. You can hang things on there, you can display keychains, put rigid boards, and so on. So that's the use for that one. As for my plastic grid cubes, I do use these pink ones for branding purposes as well as privacy. I will say for a lot of people, if you don't find a storage cube that is your brand color, you can DIY it. So I've seen some people apply vinyls on it and then it can match their brand colors, or I have seen some people dye a white storage cube so that it matches their colors. I know the most common colors are pink, white, blue, yellow, purple, green, but if your brand colors do not reside within those colors, as well as black, DIY it. For my stickers, I do have these acrylic stands. It's probably the first time I've ever had self-serve at a convention ever in my 4 years, so a little groundbreaking. Not even a little, very groundbreaking, honestly. These stands were $14.99 on Amazon, and I did purchase 3 of them so that I can fit a good amount of my stickers. Since most of my stickers are 3 inches, this 7-level acrylic stand fits about 28 stickers, and with 3 stands, it's about 84 stickers. In order to keep my stickers organized and not flailing all over each level, I do have these 3 printed dividers that I got from a friend of a friend. It was about $15 for about 50 of these, and I do like that this is in my brand colors. So the alternative to these 3 printed dividers is a plastic hair tie. However, I did want an option that was reusable and is less likely to break over time, which is why I went with this option. If you want something similar, I would look into shops that do offer 3D printing services. Most often than not, they will have different colors available. So I would look into one that works with your brand colors. So to display some of my product like foam grips and enamel pins, I do use these rigid boards. This is 12 by 12 and I did specifically choose one with a rounded corner. Got these from Got Print and I did attach them just using the adhesive for foam grips in particular. For enamel pins, I just punctured it. And to attach it to my wire grid cubes, I do have these adhesive hooks. And these I purchased in a pack from Amazon and super helpful. I just use 2. If I need something to be a bit more sturdy, I might use 3, but 2 is fine. And you just attach it to your wire grid cube and it works perfectly and it hangs on there. It's also super easy to remove when you are taking down. Because before I did use Velcro Zip Ties, it was a bit of a pain because I did have to unwrap it and then that took a good hot second. So this made it a lot easier with takedown and setting up. So a question I get a lot is how do I attach my Ita bags on my grid cube? So for example, with this Ita backpack, I do have these Velcro Zip Ties and I usually tie it to the hardware and then I zip tie it to the grid cubes. Usually I don't add the extra accessories just because it does get in the way and adds a bit more weight, which I would prefer not to do so because my grid is too heavy, it might fall down, which I don't want that to happen. I usually do this with most of the Ita bags, especially if I want to add some storage behind it, because otherwise it would just be placed on the grid cubes and that takes out a grid cube's worth of storage space. Usually for a lot of my conventions, it's not that necessary, but for a lot of my busy conventions like Anime Expo, SAC Anime, I would need that precious storage space. So for my car magnets, I do use this 12 by 12 erasable whiteboard, and I got this from the Container Store. I did purchase 2 of them because I did have that many car magnets, and to attach it to my display, I put some adhesive Velcros, so then I can just attach it to my plastic grid cubes. And they sit there perfectly. I do like this one better than the first one that I used to have because this one is completely flat and there's no curve to it, because when I had my old one, it was a bit concave, so it did stick out, but this case, it doesn't take up more room because it's as thin as a piece of paper for the most part. So one of my favorite things about my display is my 12 by 12 mirror. This is originally a parking mirror. However, I used it at conventions because I saw a few Artist Alley friends do it. I thought it would be great since I introduced sweaters, and this gave attendees an opportunity to see how the sweater looks on them, but also is a great way to encourage people to post about your brand on social media since it's a cute way to get photo ops. I did add some stickers and decals, mostly from Cricut, but also just mini stickers that I purchased. So I would say the stickers in total would cost about $5 just by value alone. Very easy to DIY, honestly. And then I just use a clamp on the back to attach it to my grid cube. This clamp is also very useful. I use it to attach that mirror as well as close up my booth with canopy walls, and pretty multi-use. The only thing is that it is a little bit annoying because these nubs do tend to come off. I've had a few where I just lost them. Some of them only have one or some of them have none. This one somehow has both. Very lucky on that end. It did come in a pack, so at least I had enough for all of my events and still using them. They're pretty great, just that little annoying aspect of it. Outfit changed because I couldn't finish filming this during day 0 setup, so now it is day 1. For prints, I have 4x6 prints, and I use these wooden greeting card display stands. I believe this came in a pack of 2, and I got it from Amazon for $27. This holds about 8 4x6 prints, and there's 4 levels, which is pretty good. I have seen a few people use this one. I did get this recommendation from Ivy of Drawn by Ivy, which is why I got this. It does fit exactly 12 by 12, so if you have a grid cube display, you can allot it for that. Usually for price signage, I do have them printed at a local print shop, and I just have them all laminated on an 11 by 17 size paper. I have gone through many different signage, so I don't have the exact total, but in the case of this current display, I would say that in total with my 11 by 17 catalogs, it's about $20 or so. Obviously, it would be a lot more affordable if you did it yourself, but in my case, I do not have the proper tools for that, so I had to outsource them. There are a lot of cars here. Since I have been running out of space on my display to have business cards on there, I did have this acrylic business card holder. I believe it fits the standard US business card size, which is this dimension, and I like to zip tie it onto my grids. To hold my notebooks, they're pretty much self-serve at this point. I do have these wire shelving. It did come in a pack, so this came with 2 of these, 2 wire holders for books, which I typically use for a lot of my catalogs sometimes. But in this case, for this event, I did use this for my notebooks, and it holds about 4 notebooks, I would say. I also use these heart-shaped hooks, and there is an adhesive in the back. I believe it's meant to be used for attaching it to your phone so that you can attach keychains. However, I just use it for my lanyards. I did get this in a pack through a group order with another artist, but for that count, I got it for this price. To attach most of everything, like my sweaters, my Ida bag, pin insert, free tote bag, and whatnot, I typically use binder clips, and I just have a million of these at home. I wouldn't know how much we paid for this. I just have a lot from way back when. And a few of them I did get secondhand from other people. Because I am a big proponent of signage and branding your display so that people can easily find you, I do have this Mualcaina brand sign that is printed and done by my friend who has extra foam board and a laminate machine. Got it for free. You could say I paid for dinner for this. I'd say this is a really cute way to brand your booth. I have seen other artists print these out and glue it on their foam board, so you can really easily DIY this. As for sticking things to my display, whether that's signage, vinyl stickers when I don't have them self-serve, I do use these Scotch Restickable mounting squares. I really like these. I've been using this since 2022 when I first started, and while they do come in 1/2 inches, I do cut them in half sometimes if I don't need the entire square. I got these from Amazon for $6, and it came in a pack of 72, I believe. Yes. Technically, I could use painter's tape since I know that's a really common one for a lot of people in Artist Alley, but I just got used to using these because I do like the re-stickable aspect of it. And I also just have a lot of Scotch tape at home, so I tend to use that as well. To hold my signage, if I'm not using the reusable sticky pieces, I do use these acrylic sign holders. What I do like about these, and I just recently found out that you can remove the joint parts so that you can make it smaller. Like this is the standard base size, but if you want to make it a bit smaller, just so it's a bit more stable, you can remove this, and then just attach this with the other side, and it fits perfectly. I am currently using it to hold my foam board cutout. I also just use this for price signage if necessary. Very useful. This one did come in a pack of 25 pieces for $19 from Amazon. Now I haven't used this in a very long time. I think the last time I used this was 2022, 2023, so it's been a hot second, but worth bringing up. So if you did want to fill up your display, I've seen a lot of people use garlands. In this case, I used to use this cherry blossom Sakura Garland for a good amount of time until I filled up my table, and it seems more full even without it, but I just wanted to decorate it in this case just because I needed another table display photo for other conventions, so she's out again. She's been brought back to life. So in total, not including product, my entire table display cost, drumroll please, $708.86. Does this cost surprise you, or is it a bit similar to what you thought it would be? Comment down below and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. While you now may have an idea of how much everything costs, you might be curious as to how an Artist Alley weekend may go. If you're curious about how the largest anime convention went for me this year, watch this video to see my experience at Anime Expo, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!